Hi, guys. Welcome to Parawoman Radio. I'm Amy. Today, we're going to do something a little different, and I am going to be doing a book review. Um, it's a book by Cherlyn Cadle, and it's called Letters from Christopher Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders. This will be part one, and I am going to be giving a synopsis of her acknowledgments and her intro. This book has been proven to be plagiarized, and at the end of the video I will be adding a video from I Swear Kimberly, and she will be talking about the plagiarism because I believe she was the one that caught it first. But Cherlyn Cadle says a big thank you to her husband Ed and to her daughter Candace. She says that she thanks them for encouraging her and helping her process all the horrible information that Chris Watts dumped on her. She has a quote by Anise Nin. Love never dies a natural death, it dies of a bunch of things. I'm not going to read it all, but that's basically the gist of it. And then we go into the intro. Okay, so Cadle starts out saying that this story is like a Hollywood story, and many times writing it, she felt like she was in a movie. But she says it's a true story, and Chris Watts gave her very intimate details of things he had never been able to talk about. She says that he didn't tell the FBI everything um, because he was really angry that the FBI came without uh, first telling him he was coming. She asks the reader to hold all judgment until we've read the entire book, but knowing what I know now, like if I was reading it in 2018, 19 when it came out, I would be able to hold judgment. But we know a little bit more. But this book, she does give information that we hadn't gotten before. Something that really irritates me is that she calls him Christopher. Why is she calling him Christopher? Nobody calls him Christopher, except that time Shanann tried to get him to change his name to what was it? Christopher? Christopher? I don't remember what it was, but it was pretty funny. She goes into how by law Christopher can't make any money off of the book, and that the Watts said that it would be wrong for them to make any money off of the book. Chris just wants a whole chapter for a testimony for his forgiveness and how he came to God. But I would say that the Watts were not happy with this book. I think it was due to money and some other circumstances, but Chris really has that jailhouse religion, and I don't believe he found religion. It's just a crutch that he uses. She says that Cadle says she reached out to both families, the Ruchaks, and Sandy said no, but the Watts were more than generous with the info. However, the info that they shared with her was very troubling. She doesn't say what the info was and what the troubling part was, but this is just the intro. She says she tried to be unbiased as possible writing the book. She feels Shanann and the girls were pure souls who didn't deserve this, and that Chris 100% is the killer, the murderer. Um, she wasn't sure what info she could give her dear readers, but she learned quickly that everything was false that we had known up until now. Everything was false, and but she got the real info. She got the real scoop, and she was pretty sure that both the Rucheks and the Watts would be very happy with knowing the true story. I guess the true story. Then Cadle pops into musing about what would cause a man to do this. And she says that the Watts said something seemed wrong when they saw him and that they felt like something was about to happen, but not what actually happened. They didn't have any idea that was going to happen. Chris says that he loves his family. He says that trauma took his memories away, but it's slowly coming back in pieces. And he only said Shanann murdered the girls because the FBI agent fed it to him. And he says he didn't hear any voices when he murdered his family. I almost feel like you could read this intro and get the full story. But anyway, she says that the story basically wrote itself and all she had to do was listen. Um, Even though she says CW didn't hear demons, that he must be evil, she says, and have demons inside of him. And then she says this weird thing about sophisticated psychics or psychiatrists, I mean, and the Vatican doing more exorcisms than ever, which she didn't sort the site of information on that. Um, CW's never claimed anything mental, she says, but also just says that he felt darkness around him. Next, Keto goes into true crime junkies and how we don't want to hear any excuses, and Chris Watts doesn't give any excuses, and that true crime people and Cadle just want the truth. And she says on August 13th, 2018, Chris annihilated his entire family, and Shanann had no idea what was about to happen when she crossed over that doorway that fateful night. Um, Cadle says she was one of the people who watched this case unfold, and she basically wanted the truth like everybody else. And when she saw him in that porch interview, she knew he was guilty and she wanted to write a book, although she had never written a book before, but she just knew she'd be just darling at it, just marvelous at it. Um, Cadle says that the relationship started as letters, which led to phone calls, which led to face meetings, and then the book. She says she recorded all of the phone calls and all of the in person meetings, which I don't know how she could do that because she said that in the beginning she couldn't even write the notes. She had to remember everything. I remember her saying that in an interview, so I don't know what that means exactly. But Chris thought it would be safer to write her letters about what happened. But the letters are all read, aren't they? I think, and I would believe Chris's are all read to check what the guy is saying. Um, and that Chris knew the sole purpose of her coming was to write a book, and that he might not like what she put in the book. And basically, I think he hated it all, didn't he? He and the Watts didn't like it either. And I think it was proven that most of this comes from Discovery. I don't even know if she interviewed the Watts truly. Um, Cadle says that Watts doesn't like to be called a murderer, which I'm not really sure what he wants to be called. What, a killer? Mr. Killer? I don't know. Says that Chris was just craving interaction, and so dumping on her was an even exchange. He dumped, she got the book. Um, she says that he knew she wouldn't show up if he blamed Shanann for murdering the girls, which doesn't seem to me like you're trying to get the true story if you're saying you have to say this story to me or I won't show up. But she remembers that she knew he was guilty when she saw the porch interview, and Chris now says he doesn't remember much of that day. He says he told the police nothing made sense that day, and that statement still holds true to the day that he was talking to Cadle. He says that pieces of the murders have been coming back to him, but he was so traumatized by everything that he can barely remember what's going on. And because he can't remember, Cadle starts to muse as to why. And she says, because is he insane? And oh my God, she starts talking about brain trauma. And even though Chris's brain trauma was self induced, he still suffers from tremendous trauma. Sherilyn then talks about never having any interest in true crime, and that everything that she's heard from Chris and his family, that now she needs counseling. She has trauma, which I would believe if she had researched this, but it's been proven that she pulled everything from Discovery and and I don't know, the few letters that she got from Chris. I know a man who is on my Facebook page that has been interviewing a serial killer for like 2 years to get the info. He's getting added murders that this murderer did, but it's been 2 years. I don't know how long she researched this book, but I do know that she got it out pretty quickly, and it's like just a mess. It's a The grammar and the spelling, it's just a mess. And Cherlyn Cadle wraps everything up with saying that she thought that someone who could do this type of act would be insane. Yet Chris was so shy, reserved, and um, boyish. Boyish. Yet when he started to tell her the story, he basically blew her socks off. So, okay, guys, that'll be the acknowledgments and the intro. I've already done chapter one. I did that before I did the acknowledgments and the intro. I decided I wanted to go back and do these first. So I'll probably have chapter one up tomorrow. And I hope you like this format. Please give it a thumbs up if you do. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And if you subscribe, you got to ring the bell. It just helps us dance out into the algorithm, bring more people back to the party. It's a free way to help my channel out, and I really appreciate it. I am going to be doing new paranormal women interviews starting in October, so stay tuned for those. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. You know I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.